Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. Recently, Adobe updated Photoshop to version 23. In this video, we're going to talk about a few of the new features found in this, the latest version of Photoshop. We're going to start out with the most significant new feature found in this version of Photoshop. That is an improved object selection tool. If I go over to the tool panel on the left-hand side and long press with the left mouse button on this small group of selection tools, you'll see the top tool is the object selection tool. When I pick that, you'll notice at the top it has a checkbox object finder. Then it has this spinning group of arrows. When that spinning group of arrows is spinning, Photoshop is looking through the image for anything it considers to be an object. An object could be inanimate, it could be a pet, or it could be a person, it could be an animal. In this case, this image has 3 people in it. When those arrows stop spinning, that means it found everything it considers to be an object in the image. Then what you could do is take your cursor and hover over something, in this case, the woman in the foreground, and you'll see an overlay appears. That means it found this person in the foreground, thinks that that is distinct from everything else, and if I click on her and then remove my cursor, you'll see we now have marching ants around her. So it really did a good job of finding this person in the foreground. Now there's 2 other people in this image. There's the man on the left, man on the right. If I hover over the man on the left, you'll see an overlay appears on him. It found him pretty well. If I click on him, what it will do is it will remove the marching ants, it will remove our previous selection and put our selection on our new object that I clicked on. If you want to add to the selection, what you could do is select the first object, in this case it's the man on the left, then hold in the Shift key and click on the second object, and you'll select both objects. You can see the marching ants are going around the woman in the middle and the man on the left. Now, the man on the right, I want to show you something relatively interesting. If I hover over him, you'll see the overlay appears, but look at the overlay. It didn't select some of the fingers of his left hand. I'm going to click on him, and when I do, it'll remove the selection from the other 2 people. But notice what happens. The overlay wasn't really indicative of what was selected because his hand is selected. But it didn't select over here. And you can see if I hover again, you can see it's not indicative of what was selected. It's thinking, or it's showing, I should say, that his entire suit should be selected and just part of his hand won't be. But when I actually click on it, it selected the hand but didn't select part of the suit. Now you could hold in the Shift key like I did before and try to add to the selection, but that won't work. What you're going to have to do in this case to select the rest of his suit is you're going to have to get a different selection tool, the quick selection tool, and then just add to that selection. So I want you to be aware of that. Don't just believe that that overlay is perfect. Often it isn't. It's going to show you parts that are selected that ultimately won't be selected, and it's going to show you parts that aren't selected that ultimately will be selected. Now this was a relatively easy image. It was a pretty clean background. How does it do with a background that was a little bit more busy? Well, let's see. We have this image of the 3 women. If I go to the object selection tool, again you'll see the spinning arrows. Object finder has to be checked. So remember you do that so that it finds the quote objects in the image. Now once those arrows stop spinning, let's see. Oh, it selected the woman on the left pretty well. It looks like it selected everything it needed to select. The woman in the middle, it selected her, but notice the woman's left on the left. Notice her left hand. There's a bit of an overlay on that. So if I click on the woman in the middle, you'll notice it selected the hands on the woman on the left. So that isn't good. That would have to get fixed. Now the woman on the right, now look at this. It didn't select her pant leg. in the very bottom of the image. But if I click on her, it's going to remove the selection from the woman in the middle, apply it to her, and it selected everything. So again, that overlay doesn't always indicate exactly what is going to be selected. Now, of course, when you do an object selection, you're not going to just take that selection and run with it. Most often, you're going to then go to select and mask. And I want to show you something here. When you do this, like I just selected the woman on the right, and I go there, it's a pretty good selection, but I want to refine her hair. So I'm going to click the Refine Hair button. If you have other people in the image and you click Refine Hair, it's going to find the hair on those people as well. And so another shortcoming of this tool, and hopefully they improve it in subsequent updates to Photoshop, but I just want to make you aware of what you can and can't do about it, and things that are quirky about it, and things you should be aware of so that you could better utilize it. So it is nice, but it is, the first iteration of it, and hopefully they improve it down the road. Now, let's talk about something else that is new. I have this image here. This is really a composite of two images. I have this background image. It's just an image taken several years ago of my son here of his band. And I added a stock photo of this woman just rocking out. Now you'll notice the color doesn't match, right? The white balance is off. It's not as saturated. Everything is kind of off. It just doesn't look right. Well, there's a new neural filter, and what they've done in this update to Photoshop is they added some new beta versions of neural filters, and they've improved some of the other neural filters, and I think they took one or two of the previous beta versions of neural filters and took the beta designation off them. But let's talk about this one that I'm going to do in this video, or this one neural filter that will help with this image. It's called Harmonize. We're going to go up to Filter, Neural Filter, and once it loads, you'll see that it has the featured ones at the top, right? And then down here, the beta, and the one I'm talking about for this is Harmonization. Let's turn that on. And when you turn that on, nothing will happen, because what you need to do is go to the top and give it a reference image. Basically, this is the reference layer, the layer that it is going to look at and try to match the tone and color to for in this case, the woman in the foreground. So we'll click on this drop down and we go to the background, and you'll see down at the bottom, Processing on Device. Sometimes it's going to say Processing on Device, sometimes it will say Processing in the Cloud. So for some of these neural filters, you will need an active internet connection. For this one, I did not. And you can see that it kind of matched the color better and the white balance better, so it makes her appear to fit a little better in the scene. Now, you, of course, could come in and tweak it. It has some sliders, the strength of the effect itself. You could adjust the cyan, magenta, and yellow mix. You could adjust the saturation. You could adjust the brightness as well. Let's, for this image, pull brightness down a little bit. And again, it has to process, so you have to wait for it till it does it. And there, it made it a little darker. That looks okay. All right, now we'll output it to a new layer. You have choices, current layer or a smart filter. Let's do a new layer and click OK. And then you can see we have a new layer at the top of the layers panel, or layer stack. And if I turn that top layer off, there's our original image. And there is our improved image. So that did a pretty good job. Now in this case, that kind of white fringing on her hair, that's just for me. When I did the composite, I didn't really refine the hair that well. But in this case, it might fit. You might think that she's backlit a little. But if you want to get rid of that, this is just a side note. It has nothing to do with anything new in Photoshop. What you could do is go up to Layer, Matting, Remove White Matte. And when I click on that, you'll see it got rid of her white matte, brought back some more of her hair. Whether or not that looks better or not is subjective. Okay, let's go to the final thing. It's still neural filters. I have this just really simple landscape image taken at Gettysburg Battlefield in Pennsylvania. And we're going to go up to Filter, and we're going to go to, where is it? Neural Filters. And again, these are in beta, most of these. Well, let's go to Style Transfer first. All right, let's go here. This isn't in beta. And if I turn that on, what you could do under the presets, there's some artist styles that you could try to imitate. Like this one. I don't know if this is Monet or or who that is, but you could see these looks that you could get. So if that was Van Gogh or Monet or whatever this is, you could see, you just click on these and go through. So you could kind of get these really very poorly rendered, in my opinion, kind of painting looks. You also could go to image styles, and here are just like images, not necessarily the style of a specific artist, just kind of an image style that you could try to imitate. You have custom here. If you click there, you could select an image that is a reference image. You could find one on your computer by clicking on this little folder here, and so on. So also there's some sliders down here where you could, once you apply one of these styles, you could adjust the strength of the style, the opacity of the style, and so on. So at first blush, when you apply this, it may look horrible, but then you may want to move around some of these sliders and maybe you'll get it to look a little better. But that is style transfer. Probably not something I would use. Let me know if it's something you would use in the comments below. Let's go to Landscape Mixer. Again, we have our original image. I removed that style transfer filter from it. Let's see what we have here. Here's like a sunset. Let me click on that and see what it does. This again is a preset. And what it will do is it will take the colors and tones and kind of the feel of that image, and it will apply it to this image. And you can see down here it did. So you could see how it really drastically changed the look and feel of my image. Let's go to this one, which is kind of more of a washed out color look, kind of a lower contrast. You can see the look there. Again, you do have sliders. You could adjust the strength, so you could dial it back. Again, you can see at the bottom it says processing on device. So this is rather processor and graphics processor intensive. You could adjust sunset values. There's no sunset in this image, but you can see how these sliders could help you do that. Again, these are presets. You could go to custom. Again, select an image from your computer by clicking on this little folder, and you could try to copy the style of an image that maybe you downloaded from someone else or something like that. So that is Landscape Mixer. And the last thing I want to talk about is color transfer. I've done videos in the past on depth blur. That, even though it's still in beta, that isn't new to this version. Now, color transfer to me are basically LUTs. Those of you familiar with a LUT, when you apply a LUT to an image, it will give your image kind of a unique color, unique contrast look. And let's say if I just go here and apply this one, again, this is preset, so you can see it kind of looks like a LUT to me, like you applied a LUT to the image. So I'll just go click through a few of these. Let's click something that's a little cooler, maybe this one. So there's the look, and you notice my image was a lot brighter, and this is kind of giving it more of a darker look. If I want to preserve the luminance, I click this checkbox, and it will, in this case, brighten up my image. Color space you're going to use, by default, it will use lab. You could use RGB if you prefer, and you can see the colors shift considerably when you change the color space. You could adjust the saturation, the hue, and the brightness level. Notice when I went to RGB that the preserve the luminosity, that disappeared. This luminance checkbox disappeared. So that is interesting to note. So this is color transfer. Again, to me, at least, these are more or less LUTs, in my opinion, that you could apply to an image. And if you're satisfied with one, click OK. And I'm not satisfied. I don't like those. Hard to kind of fake it on that. But I don't really care for either of those, any of those neural filters outside of the harmonize. I thought that is okay. But again, that's in beta. That's something they're working on, and hopefully they'll improve that down the line as well. So those are the most significant new features of this version of Photoshop. I think this is one of those updates that may have one or two things that some of you will find to be very useful, but most of you probably are thinking, wow, that is kind of a waste of time. Not really anything I would use. Of these, I probably even wouldn't use object selection personally, even though I'm in Photoshop every day. I might use harmonize, but I kind of do that on my own, meaning if I did a composite like this, I wouldn't do it like this. I would make sure that the color and tone matched, already before I would worry about trying to use a neural filter to fix it. But anyway, teach his own. Let me know your thoughts on this latest version of Photoshop in the comments below. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.